Hey guys, welcome back to Connor Reads. Today I'm going to be doing the third in Robert Jordan's series, The Dragon Reborn. I've been so excited to review this series. Today I'm going to do it slightly different. The summary is going to be very small. I'm going to fly through the summary. Then I'm going to move into a couple of things I loved about this book because there wasn't much I didn't like. Then I'm going to go through each main character, tell you, what I thought about this book and them inside of it, and then my predictions for them moving forwards. Then I'm going to finish up with some overall predictions and my MVP for the book. So let's hop into it. So for the world's quickest summary, basically Rand goes AWOL. He's struggling with his craziness from touching the male half of the power, so he goes absolutely AWOL. We have Perrin, we have Loial, we have Moiraine, and we have Lan, all trying to hunt and chase him down. Not so much hunt, but chase him down. Now going off to Tar Valon, we have the triple threat of the ladies. So we have the princess, we also have Egwene, and we have Nynaeve as well. And then finally we have Mat going with them also. Mat is ill and he needs to get healed. And that really sets us up for this book moving forwards. Forwards from this point, there will be spoilers. So if you haven't read this book yet, pause the video, go read it, watch my previous reviews, and then hop back and join us there, okay? The first thing that I absolutely loved about this book was the pacing. Now, Rand is obviously our main character. In the last two books, he's dominated the page space. And although I loved his development, I love him as a character, I was glad he didn't dominate this book. It gave us so much time to learn about other characters, their developments, what they were learning, and their skill set growing as well, that we saw an intimate look at some of the characters who we haven't had tons of time to look into previously. So I absolutely love the pacing of this book. The second thing I loved was how it was tied up together. I think it was incredible story writing. I think this is the best book of the series so far, and if any of them reach this level, then I'll be so impressed. Essentially, I loved the end. The ending felt like it was, I felt like I was like swirling the tap. So in this book, we see a lot of jumping around of perspectives, and each chapter or each perspective seemed to get like smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller because we were coming around the final, the finale, I suppose, the end product of this book. And it was just so well done that I was in cinematic mode. And what I mean by that is, if you're a reader, you'll know what I'm talking about. I no longer felt like I was reading. I felt like I was just watching and I was in the zone, and that only happens when I'm really excited about what I'm reading. If it's a task or a chore or I'm plowing through, then I'll take breaks and I'm actively trying to read it. With this book, there was periods of time where you could have come into the room, declared war upon me, stolen my dogs, smashed my windows and left, and I wouldn't have noticed because I was in this book. The final thing I love is how well this book has set up the next phase of this story. I think the first phase of the story has been build up. It's been more low key and it's been more centered around small individual people and this group of people that we've fallen in love with making their way across the country. But now with certain big characters and the Forsaken, I can't remember what their names are, they've broken free and they're setting themselves up as lords and ladies and who knows what else across the country. We know that big battles and big war is going to be coming because the Aiel have let know they are the people of the dragon. Rand is going to lead them, or so I think. So I think phase 1 is over. Phase 2 is just beginning, which is going to be really exciting. So my character breakdowns and predictions. I'm going to start with Moiraine and Lan. I'll be honest, they did a lot in this book, but there wasn't much development. Moiraine is still relatively cold. She's very much focused on task, and I'm excited to see where she goes moving forwards. I think we are going to learn a lot more about Moiraine moving forwards as well. There's got to be a reason she's so driven. There's got to be a reason she's so proficient and on the forefront of everything, because we haven't really delved much into her past, and I'm excited to learn about that, but I don't have a huge prediction for her. I stick by what I said in my previous videos. She's not going to make it to the end. She definitely isn't. She's too good of a character, as in like ethically. So I am expecting her to die, but it's a long series. She may have 5, 6, 7 books left, and that would still not be the last couple of books. So with her warder, Lan, again, not a huge amount of development, not a huge amount of dialogue in this book, but again, just did his job. I think that Lan is going to be instrumental with the Aiel. Obviously, his previous kingdom, that isn't really a kingdom anymore, but he would be the king of it, was right on the border of those lands. So I think he's going to have a good understanding and a good knowledge of the Aiel. Maybe there's going to be an issue with the Aiel. Maybe not all of them want to come and fight, even though that doesn't seem like them. But he will have some kind of pull on them because he's from that area and he should be a king. So I think he's going to be important with leading armies moving forwards, and maybe even becomes the king of the Aiel. Potentially, but I feel like that might be Rand. I don't know, but he's going to be important with the Aiel. Either way. My next character is Matt, and I'm going to hold my hands up and I'm going to issue an apology. I was so harsh on Matt. The first 2 books, I did not like him at all. I thought he was going to be a dark friend. I thought he was going to be a snake, a weasel, somebody not to be trusted and not to be liked. He was my favorite character by a country mile in this book, and I would like to apologize to anybody who was offended about me not believing in our boy Matt. Something I loved about Matt was he has an inner dialogue which is really fun to read. It reminded me a lot, and I believe maybe he was an influence on some of Brent Weeks' characters. So Kyla Stern and Durzo Blim, they have this kind of mentality where it's like, listen, I don't want to be a big hero. Heroes are overrated, you know, they're not real. It's all a myth, it's all a legend. No one's that good. But then along his journey, he's constantly doing things heroes would do, but he tries to make logical sense of it. And he tries to say that's just what anybody would do. Well, it would be silly and inconvenient not to be a hero in this case. And his sense of humor is relatively dark as well. And I loved it. I really enjoyed it. And he was my favorite character of this book. One thing I did love was right at the end in the tier, the Heart of Stone, I believe it was, the big tower, and he's fighting his way through to save the girls, and he's fighting one of the lords of that tower, the High Lord, and he calls him a ragamuffin, and that's something I haven't heard since my mom and dad. And sometimes my grandma would say that type of thing to me in England. They'd be like, "You ragamuffin." And I hadn't heard it in so long. So I did like a double take and I laughed when I read that. It was so refreshing to hear that word, which was awesome. And the final thing with Matt's adventure is that he pulled Thom Merrilin back into the game. I'm so excited to see Thom again. He's been one of my favorite characters, and to have those two together, their personalities was such a good mesh. I think that moving forward with Matt, I think that Matt is going to interact again with the Two Rivers people before anybody else. He doesn't seem to want to be a part of this huge global thing that's happening, even though he is the man who blew the horn. There's no avoiding that. But he also knows that Tam, who's Rand's father, and his father, whose name eludes me, they came to Tar Valon. He knows that, and he knows that his parents probably think he's dead as well, I believe. So I think he's going to interact with them over the course of the next book. And I also think that, and I hope and I pray that him and Thom stay together, because I cannot wait to see another Matt and Thom adventure. So we move into the triple threat. We have Egwene, Nynaeve, and the princess. The first half of the book, I loved their storyline. It was incredible. And the second half of the book, it was pretty good as well. What I didn't like so much about the second half of the book is that 2 times back to back, they get absolutely knocked out and just mugged off, basically. First time by, I think it's just bandits, and the second time by the Black Aja. And although I get it, like you can't have the heroes winning all the time, it just seems silly for them to have the same thing happen to them twice back to back. So out of those 3, we'll start with Egwene first. I think that Egwene really the sky's the limit because of the Tarangil, the ring that helps her move into the dream world more easily because she's a dreamer. There's no rules with that so far that I've been told. The only rule really is that anything that happens there can happen to your body, which isn't really much of a rule because anything seems to be able to happen in those dreams. So I think we need further clarification on those dreams for me to make big predictions for her, but that is going to obviously be how she plays the game in that dream world. I mean, there's a few of them that seem to be able to move in and out of it, but she seems to be the only one who can take control of that and attack it in a way no one else can. So the only big prediction for her moving forward is it's going to be full of dreams, 100%. But the second thing is she needs to break away from Nynaeve. I love them both as individual characters, but the entirety of this book was them arguing with each other and bickering, and sometimes for no reason, and they seem to realize it as well. And I think it's more one-sided. I think Egwene really is maybe a little jealous, maybe in a stage of adolescence where you're too cool to love your parent, and I think she needs to break away from Nynaeve and have a solo quest, solo adventure, so she can more come to terms with herself. On to Nynaeve. I stand by that she is the GOAT. She figured out, I think it was Balefire. I might have got that wrong, but the The thing that Moiraine does as well, is she's like, I learned it this year. She just like figured it out herself and attacked the Midrils with it. And also she figured out to heal mostly on herself as well. Like she's the ultimate boss lady. And for my prediction for Nynaeve moving forward is, I do believe that I still stand by my statement that she is going to be the Moiraine of the second half of this series. She has this weird, undying hate for Moiraine, which I think is completely unfounded. Moiraine was just doing exactly as Nynaeve would, but they're so similar, it's crazy. So I stand by the fact that she, moving forward, is going to help rout the Black Aja and is going to become and step into Moiraine's shoes. And I do believe that she is going to look back and regret how much she didn't like Moiraine. Loial, the ogre, he's dope. I love Loial. He's such a simple character to love. And just before the end, when the Falcon, Perrin's lady, had been hedgehogged, for want of a better word, he said he was going to stay and look out. It was the first time we've really saw Loial like get angry and get mad, and Perrin even said it was very scary. I think one thing for Loial is he's definitely going to be the link to the ogres that bring them out of hiding and you know, bring them to fight the Dark One's armies much further down the line, of course, because they'll be slow to act, kind of like the Ents in Lord of the Rings. But I'm excited to see him eventually lose his cool and rip a tower down or fight like 500 of those Growl things on his own. I think watching an ogre in battle is going to be incredible. On to Perrin. Perrin so far had been my favorite character of the series. I think Matt has at least drawn level, if not overtaken him, due to his personality. Now Perrin, what did I love about Perrin this time around? There's something I didn't love. I thought he'd become more accepting of his wolf side, like his wolf personality side, at the end of last book, but you know, this time round, he really showed that he was very scared of it. He didn't want anything to do with it. And I think a lot of that was because of the person who he met on his journey, who had been caged up, who he released. Now, one prediction is I believe we're going to see that guy again. 100%. Maybe that guy links up with Elias, but he's going to remember that Perrin released him and maybe save his life. I hope we see him again. You know, there's a way back for those wolf people who've given over a lot. And also, we find the Falcon, of course. But we also find the hawk. I think in the last chapter, there's a lady wearing a hawk, and I think that's too much of a coincidence for it not to be her. And Min's prediction is that there's going to be a falcon and a hawk on either shoulder. So I think both of those people maybe are going to be either love interests or... I don't think they could be anything except for love interest. So we'll see who wins that. I don't really know anything about the hawk. The falcon, she was cool. She kind of came out of nowhere though. Not much character development, and another example of Jordan not particularly doing romance very well. My big prediction for Perrin is he is eventually going to get hold of this wolf status, and I also believe he's going to build something. He's going to make something. Maybe it'll be a Sa'angriel or Terror Angriel. Excuse my terrible pronunciation. He's going to build something. There's so much, like this time around, there was so much. He was given the hammer and he went to work in the forge, and I get it. You need to make a choice between, you know, the wolf or the forge, so to speak, the axe or the forge. But I do believe later on the line, maybe he builds something that is maybe a long lost artifact or half built, or no one, you know, has been lost the idea of it, that is very useful. Thom is back, one of my favorite characters. I think one of the things he's going to do is he is going to rescue Morgasi from the Forsworn or Forsaken. I should have looked this up before. Who has set themselves up as like the advisor to the Queen. So he is going to be responsible for setting her free from that. I also think that we've got so much history of Thom to learn that it's so exciting, and I can't wait for him to be in the book more, because he was in the first one a lot and then in and out of the second and third one more again. But I love his partnership with Matt, and I can't wait to see more of that. And finally, Rand. Rand, we've got to slow down his crazy. He's going crazy way too fast. We need to find a way to slow that down. He's not going to last like 11 more books in that way, state or form in any stretch of the imagination. So I think in the next book, we need to find some kind of way to slow down that crazy and to stop him from going, you know, completely mental before we reach the end of the story. I have to apologize. My dog is now going crazy, barking at the window. So on to my overall predictions. Galad. It's been mentioned so much that Galad is this beautiful guy, but it's also been mentioned so often that he will do anything that he believes is right. So I think that, and it's been mentioned in every single book without him much getting development. So I think it's a lot of foreshadowing for him doing something extremely controversial, if not evil, based on something he thinks is right. We got introduced to the Aiel a lot more this time round. Number 1, they're dope fighters. Number 2, women power. Let's go. Number 3, I think that the Aiel are going to open up the map more. It was mentioned that one population were trading a lot with the Aiel and with the people beyond the Waste. So I think the next book, we've seen a lot of this map already. If not, you know, gone into depth in all of it, we've visited most of the major cities. So I believe it needs to get bigger. We need to see where the Shan-Chan came from across the sea and who's been trading with the Aiel, etc. as well. So I'm excited for that to grow. Another thing that was big was Calendar, the swords that Rand had been chasing after. It was mentioned that it was like the strongest Sangreal, bar maybe 2, which is a strange thing for someone to say. I think the other 2 are the male and female big statues holding those orbs that Rand was obsessed with for a little while. I know that's a big shout, but it's strange for them to say it's the 3rd most powerful. So the only other 2 big mystical things we found out about are those 2. So I'd be surprised if those 2 are not extremely powerful Sangreal that are used later on down the line. We got another prologue that was almost not mentioned again for the rest of the book. The Children of the Light. So my big prediction, the Children of the Light, they are going to... their big goal, which they said at the start, was essentially the head of the Children of the Light is going to allow the dragon to raise his army almost, or declare himself, and then he's going to create an army in opposition to it. However, I think the army in opposition is going to be the Children of the Light plus some of these Forsaken who've set themselves up as lords. Now, the Children of the Light, the ones who aren't Dark Friends, on paper, hate anything that's evil. So that might cause some civil war from that faction, and that's my prediction for them moving forwards. Who is Bors? We still didn't find out from the prologue of the previous book. For a little while, I thought it might be Thom Merrilin, which really disappointed me. I do not want him to be evil in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, no more word on who Bors is, and I don't have a Scooby-Doo. I don't have a clue as to who he might be, which is really frustrating me. Another thing, there's so many prophecies. Every couple of pages, someone has a dream or Min has a prediction. It's crazy. To start with, what I was doing was I was writing down every time there was a prophecy, but I just gave up. There's too many, and I think Robert Jordan, the fact that he's done that is a good thing, because it stops you from being able to easily predict what's happening going forwards, because some of them are like false trails. You know, some of them happen, of course, anything Min predicts. So it's interesting. It's very, very interesting, but an overload of prophecy seems to be giving me enjoyment, because I don't know, you know, what's going to happen. There's not anything set in stone. The Forsaken, although they're set up across the country, the world, they're greedy, man. I can see some of them betraying the Dark One, not turning to the light, but being evil for a 3rd faction, and I'm excited to see which one it is. I think maybe Lanfear, even though she did pledge again for the Dark Lord this time round. And who was the person with the fire in their eyes then? Because Moiraine said it definitely wasn't the Dark One, but Balsamon is who we've been seeing. She said maybe it was Ishmael? I don't know. It's confusing. There's so much to learn. I feel like I've still only dipped my toe in this world. In the next book, I know, well, you guys have been incredible in the comments. You've been really, really fun, entertaining, very supportive. And the best thing is you haven't ruined any of the books for me, which is great. However, a couple of people did say book 4 is really where the light starts to be turned on and you start to understand a lot more. And I'm so ready. I'm so fired up for it. I want to understand about the dream world. That needs to be fleshed out. The magic system. I need to learn a bit more about you know, why people go crazy. I need to learn a bit more about the backgrounds of some of the Aes Sedai. I need to understand more about the Forsaken. I just need to understand a lot more so I can start to get a grip on this world, especially the magic half. So what I'm hoping for is I learn more about the dream world and what the actual rules are there, because there doesn't seem to be any, which really opens up the world for anybody. And I also need to learn more about the magic and just a bit more about history, Lews Therin, and what the hell is going on. Outside of that, I massively appreciate you guys hopping on and well, watching me again. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I'd love to hear your comments. Again, please don't put any spoilers in, but I trust you. You've been incredible, and I'll be back with the next installment in a week or two. Thank you so much.